Hey, gorgeous. Welcome to Season 3 of the Hormone Puzzle Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Kayla Smith, CEO of the Hormone Puzzle Society, a women's health hub for fertility, hormones, and pregnancy, an integrative, holistic nutritionist, doctor of natural medicine and training, creator of the Hormone Puzzle Method, an infertility warrior, two-time boy mom, and women's health expert. This podcast is for women struggling with infertility, painful periods, terrible PMS, or really just any symptoms of hormone imbalance that they are ready to eliminate for good. Tune in weekly as we interview amazing experts in the field of women's health, breaking down those hormone walls, nerding out on nutrition, and having way too much fun. Whether you're beginning your journey or you've been struggling for years, we're going to finally help you put those pieces of your hormone puzzle back together so that you can get pregnant and eliminate those pesky symptoms for good. Not to mention, stay pregnant, have a healthy super baby, and easy postpartum. Are you ready? This season is packed with even more expert guests, sharing groundbreaking knowledge, giving you that jolt of energy that you so desperately need, sending you lots of virtual hugs, and inspiring you to take your fertility into your own hands and make that baby. Thank you all so much for tuning in and being amazing listeners. So now let's get started on your road to transformation. On today's show, we have Michelle and Lyndsey of myMindBodyBaby. After each recognizing their need for increased fertility lifestyle support through their own individual fertility journeys, they created myMindBodyBaby to provide a safe and trusted resource to obtain research-based fertility lifestyle guidance. Today's show, we are going to be talking about their amazing platform, myMindBodyBaby, a platform to help you get all of your fertility questions answered. You're going to love this amazing resource and these two amazing ladies as we talk about nutrition, fitness, stress, and how it all plays a role in your journeys. So now let's welcome Lyndsey and Michelle to our show. Hey ladies, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk to you both. So let's dive into things. Tell me a little bit more about you and how you guys started working, in women's health around fertility, and then we'll get into how you created myMindBodyBaby. Who wants to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first.
Awesome.
So I'm Michelle. Lyndsey and I both struggled with our own fertility challenges for quite a few years. I'll let Lyndsey sort of go into hers. I'm a nutritionist by trade, had been for about 11 years. And as I started going through my own challenges, I realized that while I had a good foundation under me for what I should be doing nutritionally, I didn't have any other coping tools to support me from a fitness perspective, a mental health perspective. And so I reached out to my team and I learned a lot. But it was during that time of going through several years of infertility that I eventually reached out to Lyndsey, who I also knew had gone through the process, reached out to Lyndsey and just to get some, advice and get some support from someone who I knew who got it, because that for me was a big piece of the puzzle. Like I felt that, the lack of support out there was very isolating to go through the process. And so she sort of became my support system. And once we both were able to naturally conceive, I approached her about starting myMindBodyBaby, which we will get into, which is a support system for women who are going through the infertility process.
I love that. Thanks so much for sharing that. I find so many of us, that's how we get here is, our own personal struggles and stories with fertility. And then it leads us to working in the field. So thank you for sharing that. And then how about you, Lyndsey? Can you tell us a little bit about your story?
Absolutely. As Michelle mentioned, my husband and I struggled for a number of years to get pregnant. And when we were first starting to go through fertility treatment, I didn't open up to anybody else. And the journey is so isolating. And without having that additional support, my husband is and was very supportive. And we were a good team. In fact, I found the whole process actually brought us closer together. But, going into the workplace and to social events and the rest of it without having anybody else who understood what you were going through made it really difficult for me. And we did a number of IUI cycles and IVF. And during our last cycle of IVF, I bumped into a coworker in the clinic, and I didn't realize that she was also going through fertility treatment. And then I started to open up to a couple other people, and having that additional support really made a world of difference to our final round of IVF. Having somebody who understood what I was going through at work. So if I was having a hard day, like being able to connect with somebody there and having additional support through my social network made a big difference. We're lucky here in Canada, and Michelle and I are close to Toronto to have access to a number of great fertility clinics. And that medical side of fertility treatments here and around the world is so advanced, but it's that there's a gap between the medical approach to fertility and infertility treatment and, what you can be doing from a lifestyle perspective, not only to support yourself from a fertility optimization perspective, but also making sure that you're taking care of your mental health too. And so that's really where myMindBodyBaby comes in. And that's what we've developed our community and our programs to be, is to fill that gap between the medical side of fertility and what you can be doing from a lifestyle perspective to support yourself. So Michelle and I launched in 2019, in the spring of 2019, and we have continued to grow our community online and connecting and partnering with different fertility clinics here in Canada to provide that additional support for those struggling to grow their families.
I love that. And that's such a great point, because that's what we always say about our services, is that we're kind of that bridge between your clinic, your doctor, and your lifestyle and nutrition modifications that you need to be making at home. And it's mind, body, soul kind of, modality. So I love that you say that. That's amazing.
Fertility treatments and struggling to get pregnant takes so much out of you. And when you decide that you're going to proceed with a fertility treatment, it's such a mental, an emotional, a physical, a financial investment. And, it's frustrating to feel like maybe you're waiting for that treatment to begin. Or, I always felt like when I was giving myself that needle, that was playing like an active role in helping the success of the treatment, if that's what the medication was required at the time. But then I was like, the rest of the day, the rest of the 23 hours and 45 minutes, I was like, what else can I be doing to make sure that this cycle is going to be a success, because I've invested so much into it all around. And, that's how we've developed the programs, is so that you can feel like you are an active participant in this journey versus, on an out of control roller coaster car where you don't know where it's going and you don't have any input as to where that car is going to go. And so we want to give people the resources and the tools to feel like their actions can ladder up to helping to support their fertility. And that helps from a mental well-being perspective, because you don't feel so out of control in the journey, but it also is all backed by research. So it's very real numbers showing that, as you know very well from a nutritionist perspective, the benefits that the right diet can bring to your fertility. And from an exercise perspective, making sure that you're in an ideal zone to support fertility, but you're not going to be hindering your treatment. And then, from a mental well-being perspective, when your mind is spinning out of control with those what ifs, making sure that you can, kind of rein it in and bring your heart rate down a little bit and feel a little bit calmer during those really anxious times.
For sure. It's all so very important. So tell us a little bit more about myMindBodyBaby. Like, what is that? What was your inspiration? You kind of alluded to it a little bit earlier, but tell us, give us more details.
Sure. Well, we wanted it to be a safe place for women to be able to come to get trusted information. So if you're struggling to get pregnant, everybody has gone online and searched, like, what can I do to get pregnant?
Right. Dr.
And
Google.
there is a million different answers out there, but there is really great research that shows what you can do to help support your chances of conceiving. And so we wanted to compile that research and make it very actionable for people to be able to integrate into their lifestyle. So, it's difficult to take a research report and tear it apart and figure out, like, what does it mean in terms of how I should approach my diet or in terms of exercise. And there's a lot of old wives' tales out there and societal advice that might not be backed on research in terms of what you should be doing to get pregnant. And so we wanted it to be a place where you could get that trusted, clean, research-based information that you could really easily start to implement in your life without feeling overwhelmed, because this whole entire journey is so overwhelming as it is that the last thing anybody needs is to add 100 more things to their to-do list. And so it's little tweaks that we know help to support fertility that are really easy to start integrating into your life that help you to feel that sense of control. And so the community is an online space. People can find us online on our website. We have a private Facebook group that you can connect with others. And another big thing about this journey is it feeling isolated, like nobody really gets what you're going through. And so being able to connect online with people who really do understand what you're going through, they're going, they're on cycle day 3 too, or they just finished their IVF cycle, is really beneficial for those who are struggling. And then we have our programs that are specific to different fertility treatments or different diagnoses. So we have an IUI program, IVF, if you're prepping for treatment. We have a PCOS program. We have more generalized approach to supporting your fertility if you're not in any one of those specific areas right now. And then a first trimester once you do become pregnant. This was a request from fertility clinics because once you do finally become pregnant, you think, that's it. And then all of a sudden you're like, I have so many more worries right now. I don't know if I should be eating this or doing this. And so it's a very anxious time that you might not be expecting. And so this is a special program just to walk you through those early weeks that can often be, really scary once it's taken so long to get there, to provide that little bit of extra support.
For sure. And we also have the egg quality program, which gives women who are, maybe in that age range, not specifically in a treatment, but in that age range where we know that egg quality starts to decline, gives them a really clean resource to follow a meal plan and also look at other factors that may impact egg quality and give them some direction that way. So that one's a really popular one for us as well.
I love that. Yes, so important. I get that question all the time, like, what can I do to optimize my eggs? So that's wonderful. And I also want to reiterate, we always say like getting pregnant is half the battle. Staying pregnant and having a healthy baby, that's the other half. So you definitely don't want to lose that support or education or inspiration piece around around staying pregnant. So I'm so glad that you guys mentioned that. So very important.
We have so many women in our community who have had miscarriages and multiple miscarriages. And so it's heartbreaking to read, but we know that the need is there. And so we love to be part of that journey as wherever we can fit in.
For sure. So what are some top questions you guys get around nutrition? Like, let's talk about some of those, maybe top 3 questions you get.
I hear, I'm as a nutritionist, I sort of field these questions most often.
Yeah.
I find the most common question I get, and Lyndsey, maybe you have a different idea, is, what food can I eat to get pregnant? It's like, what's the singular food that I can eat every day and poof, I'm going to be pregnant. And I can see the logic behind this. You want something to focus on. You want what's that best food for me to eat? But just as with my training and just as, how I approach nutrition, it's not possible to give that answer. There's of course a million different foods that would be amazing. And of course it all sort of depends on the individual, to a certain degree, but it's more of a holistic approach. And that as well as, as a nutritionist yourself, that it's not just one individual thing. And so for me, it's, what's going in, what's coming out. I know what does your stress look like? How are you moving? So, therefore, how is your detox systems? Are you on any supplementation? So it's not as easy as that. However, there is some great research to support, antioxidant rich foods. So things like ginger and turmeric and blueberries and broccoli. And, there's, if you've got, challenges metabolizing estrogen, of course, there's foods, your cruciferous family that would be wonderful for that. And so, to a certain degree, it depends on the person, but I would say like if someone's asking for like the one food, I could never give them just one food, but a couple top foods for me would be, probably avocado. So you get really rich omega-3 fatty acids, something like really deep in color in terms of the spice family. So like a turmeric or a ginger. I'm really loving like, the cruciferous family, like I mentioned. So broccolis and kales and Brussels sprouts and, I don't know, like, I feel like those would be like the top foods, but again, it's such a holistic approach that it's hard to sort of narrow down just one food that would be the food for that person.
Right. For sure.
Another question that we get a lot is, okay, I'm going to have my transfer, next week, or I'm going to be my 2-week wait next week. What should I be eating? And, I feel like, what's going to support implantation as best as possible, because we hear all these, conversations about should I eat pineapple core? Should I not? Should I Brazil nuts? Maybe. Yes. I don't know. And so, so I mean, like, and my question or my answer is always the same to them. Like, those foods are wonderful and there's nothing wrong with them. And, in terms of pineapple core, it's, high in bromelain, which is wonderful, like an anti-inflammatory, which is, supportive of implantation. And, Brazil nuts are high in selenium, which is wonderful for fertility. But there's no one food that's going to support that process. Again, if your body is super inflamed because you eat a whole bunch of foods that you're allergic to all the time, or you eat a whole bunch of processed foods, or you're extremely sedentary, or for whatever reason you have a lot of inflammation in your body, that's going to impact implantation. So there, again, it's not just one food, but we do really love beets for implantation. There is some solid research to show that foods, high in nitric oxide, like beets, pomegranate, do support the implantation process. So, from a research-based perspective, which is what we are all about, I would say those would be the foods that I would direct someone to, along with, those omega-3 fatty acids.
I love it. And how about exercise? Do you have any questions around exercise, and how does this kind of play a role into all of it?
We do. We get a lot of questions about, I guess, the two extremes. So I don't exercise at all. Should I be starting? And then I am an exercise fanatic. Is that okay? And Michelle talked about, movement being part of that lifestyle approach. And, the research shows that regular, moderate exercise helps to support pregnancy and live birth rates. And so unless you're, just about to start a stimulation cycle, getting up and getting some movement in is only going to be beneficial. The guidelines recommend 150 minutes of regular moderate exercise a week. So that's over at least 3 days of the week. At a level, you can speak in short bursts, but not have a full conversation. But if you're not at the point where you can add in that amount of exercise, even a couple more walks a week, or a walk a week, if you're at 0 right now, is going to be beneficial. It helps your mental health. It helps your cardiovascular system. It helps with inflammation. It helps with body composition. And we know from the research that, body fat and percentages of body fat can play a role with hormone levels. And so there are just so many benefits to having an active lifestyle in the moderate zone while you're trying to get pregnant. But on the other end of things, people who have a very active lifestyle, there can also be detrimental effects while you're trying to conceive. So there's research that looks at LH pulsability during your fertility and energy availability. And if you are exercising at a more extreme level, your body might not have the energy available it needs for some of those reproductive tasks to ovulate, get pregnant, go through the implantation process, sustain a pregnancy in the early stages. And so it's the amount of exercise you're doing and also the amount of energy that you're putting in to balance that. And so some people, can continue to train for marathons and get pregnant, and they've never thought anything else of it. And that's wonderful for them. Right. But if you are on the more extreme side and you're not getting pregnant, it might be time to look at how you can bring your exercise quantity down to those guidelines of the 150 minutes over at least 3 days a week at a level where you can speak in short sentences, but not have that full conversation. Because again, that extreme exercise can also reduce your body fat percentages, and you need a certain level of body fat for, proper menstruation to occur, which is necessary for the whole rest of that process to happen. Another big question we get, in addition to those two, is exercise during the 2-week wait. So, say somebody is exercising regularly and they're in that moderate zone, then they pass ovulation and they're like, I got to sit on the couch and that's all I can do.
Right.
And there's a ton of questions that we get around that. And actually we put together an entire mini guide on just the 2-week wait, because it's such a highly anxious time, and people want to do everything that they can during that time to make sure that the cycle is a success. And so if you are going through a stimulation cycle, that's different because your ovaries are enlarged and there's a risk of ovarian torsion. And so that changes the direction. But for most people, unless they've been advised otherwise, they can continue with the regular moderate exercise that they've enjoyed. However, if it's going to cause you more anxiety by moving or going on a run or a vigorous walk, then it might not be worth the health benefits. If the mental piece is being offset because you're worried that you just ruin the cycle. I heard recently an analogy of a fertilized egg being like a seed in raspberry jelly. And imagine how difficult it would be to dislodge that seed by like shaking a jar of jam. So if you've gone on a run and you have a fertilized egg in there, you're not going to run the egg out of you. But if it's going to cause you more anxiety because you're just worried about what you've done, then just, go for a walk during those 2 weeks instead of continuing with the runs that you normally like until you feel more comfortable. And again, this is all prefaced by the fact that you haven't been advised otherwise by a healthcare professional for some other underlying health reason that might restrict you from exercise. But otherwise, you can continue to enjoy the exercise, especially if it is one of the methods that you turn to for stress relief.
I love that. And I think that goes back to, listening to your body and intuitively exercising based on what you need in that moment. I think that's so important and two, I think that was one of the issues that I had with not being able to get pregnant is I was an avid exerciser, super lean, like worked out all the time, but it was detrimental to me because I was too lean. That was, affecting my cycles, affecting my hormones, all of that. So definitely listening to your body and working out accordingly, I think is the key there for sure. So let's talk myths. Do you guys hear any myths around fertility and hormones that you want to kind of debunk here?
A ton. I feel like this area is just, ripe with myths, and there's so many, my sister tried this or my cousin did this, and, everybody's health and fertility journey and pregnancy are so individual. And sure, there's research to back up, general approaches to supporting fertility, but it's so hard to hear like, oh, my cousin ate McDonald's fries after her transferent worked and now she's pregnant. And so like, I definitely need to, eat McDonald's fries. I think from an exercise perspective, and Michelle can dive into some of those nutritional myths that she's heard, but it's you can't run if you're going to get pregnant. No exercising while you're trying to conceive, or just sit on the couch and watch movies during the 2-week wait. It's those kind of extremes in terms of the guidance. I think that there's a lot of confusion around. I remember when we did eventually get pregnant and my grandmother said, oh, it's because you stopped running. And I was like, actually, I didn't. And no, that's not the reason we couldn't get pregnant. But, there's also a generational thing too. We get a lot of advice from the elders within our community. Right. And some of that research wasn't around when they were trying to conceive. And so they didn't have the same guidance that we have now, but they're trying to pass it on to us. Right. And so some of the myths stem from that too.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, I hear the French fry thing constantly. I hear the pineapple thing constantly. And to be honest, I was a nutritionist at the time that I was going through my fertility journey. And after IVF, I just started mowing down on pineapple core and Brazil nuts. And I mean, I have to say, there's nothing wrong with that. There's still healthy foods. And so all the more power to you. If it makes you feel like it gives you a sense of hope and a feeling of like can do, then do it. If it's a clean food, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily recommend going out and eating McDonald's fries every day, but if you have like a couple of fries on your day of your transfer, it's also not going to be the end of the world. And that leads me to another big myth, is that you have to be perfect to conceive. And, you know, I get a lot of people are like, I actually had one conversation the other day, and the girl was like, on Instagram. And, she was like, I don't drink and I don't eat sweets, but I might have something on New Year's, but I haven't decided. Probably not, but maybe. Like, it was this whole thing about like, if I do that, that might risk my cycle. And it's simply not the case. You know, Lyndsey and I have put together programming that is supportive by research of getting pregnant and improving, you know, live birth rates in pregnancy, but it doesn't mean you have to follow it to the T. And if you don't follow it, you're not going to succeed. It's not about that. There really is a happy balance. And I think you would agree with this. It's not about perfection. It's just about doing more things that are good and growing with that and constantly building on those good things, whatever they might be. You know, maybe for you, you're starting with nutrition, but you know, you're not ready for the exercise component yet. That's okay. Or, you know, maybe you've got nutrition down pat, but you know that stress is a massive issue and that's what you want to focus on. Great. Like anything that you can do that's better, I think is going to be like super important. And so I think the myth of having to have perfection is just, it's not the case. And it causes more stress and I think more damage than anything else if people continue to believe that. And so we really do, preach, you know, doing the best you can, because it's only going to do good things. There's no harm that's going to be created in that.
For sure. We love to say around here, progress over perfection, and do 1% better today than you did yesterday, and you're good.
Yeah, I 100% believe that.
For sure. So we are going to take a short break. We're going to hear a word from our sponsors. We're going to come back and dive into practical tips on how we can optimize our fertility and hormones. So we'll do all that when we come back. Hey y'all, it's Coach Kayla here. I hope you are loving this episode as much as I am. We will be back in just a minute, but first, a word from our sponsors. Hey ladies, I am so excited to invite you to our upcoming summit, the Solving Infertility Summit. Learn from over 50 amazing women's health experts, life-changing solutions to help you solve your infertility puzzles and optimize your natural fertility so you can finally get pregnant, stay pregnant, have a healthy super baby, and an easy postpartum. Don't delay, register today. We go live January 17th. Also check out our VIP package for more access and amazing gifts. I cannot wait to see all of you there. Hey ladies, welcome back.
Hello.
All right, let's talk practical tips. What are maybe your top 3 things that you would say we need to do to support our fertility, you know, our lifestyle? And we've talked about some of these, but maybe give us a few more.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll start because I feel extremely passionate about this, 2 areas, but I don't, maybe Lyndsey wants to jump in here too. So living as, toxin free of a lifestyle as possible. I feel extremely passionate about this topic. I've spent the last, you know, since I became a nutritionist, which is almost 15 years ago, you know, a good chunk of that time, 10 plus years, you know, weeding out the toxins that are in our environment. And I mean, from anything from, you know, what's on our food, what's sprayed on our food, to the, you know, cookware we use, to, you know, cook storage, to personal care products. Like I go deep and I love to figure out a more natural versions of products that kind of do the same thing almost. A lot of them, you know, aren't quite as good as maybe something that would be laden with chemicals, but to me, that's a good trade-off, right. To know that like, I'm not putting that stuff on my skin or in my body, which, you know, there's a ton of research out there to show how these types of products can impact our hormones. And as we all know, hormones are a pretty important part of getting pregnant.
Right.
So, like I personally believe in organic food, and I know that's not financially possible for everybody, but, doing some organic in the areas that are, in foods that are highly sprayed, like the Environmental Working Group has a great list of the dirty dozen foods. So maybe you start with, replacing some of those items with an organic version. And if you're not doing organic, like choosing foods that are, as fresh as possible or as local as possible, and washing the heck out of them and just trying to do your best. And then maybe you're focusing on, body care and not using as harsh of chemicals in your body. Like there's areas that we can do on a budget that don't have to feel overwhelming and reduce that toxic load in our body. And then the other area I feel very passionate about, which we've sort of talked a little bit about, is stress. For me, I feel like stress was a major component of my challenges. Of course, there was nothing that, came back in the testing that showed that. But I just felt like when I was able to finally conceive, had been a series of events that happened before that forced me to stop and slow down. And very quickly after that happened, I was pregnant. And so, of course, like who knows exactly the reason, but for me, slowing down the pace at which I was living and taking a breath. And consequently at that time I had just gotten a puppy and I was walking him a lot. And so that movement helped me to sort of, again, get some more oxygen to my body, get some more movement, but it helped me to like get outside and just stop with the quick of the pace that I was on. And so, for myself, I think stress management is, we all know, or people that are stressed sometimes know they're stressed, but other people don't know they're stressed. And I think it's worth taking a hard look at, do you maybe have more stress in your body? And maybe how you feel feels so normal to you that maybe it doesn't feel stressful, but perhaps it is for your body. And stress can impact our hormones like crazy as well. And so I think that it's important that not to discount stress as being a huge contributor to sort of that fertility landscape and things that can positively change their lifestyle by just, making slight adjustments in how you look at things or how you do things or the pace at which you work.
For sure. And I'm glad you mentioned environmental toxins, because I think that's a big one that sometimes gets overlooked. And I feel like 10 years ago, it was really hard to get clean products that worked. Now it's getting so much better. I even find that some of the clean products I use are even better than the old stuff I used to use with the chemicals in it. So I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, I feel so passionate about that, and I love talking about it, and I love like discovering new products, and to be honest, like I end up making a lot. I make some of my own. I make my own face wash, I make my own body cream, because like I know exactly what's in it, and it's not like there's no toxins in it, and it works. So like why would I buy a bottle when I can just use something that's not gonna impact my endocrine system?
Yep, exactly. And sometimes it's even cheaper to just make your own. You could make a lot of it and just, it's, better than buying a little bitty bottle of, clean stuff. That's like
and it works, and people love receiving it as presents. So
right.
It's a double win.
There you go. And how about you, Lyndsey? What are maybe your quick tips for us?
I think it's, taking stock of your lifestyle right now. So we've talked about a lot of different tips and what the research says, and it can feel really overwhelming. And so, taking stock of where you are right now and what's feasible for you in terms of small changes and tweaks, and knowing, your mental capacity for making those changes. For me, one of the hardest parts was, the mind game of it all. And we're not just talking about one cycle. Like if you're struggling to get pregnant, it can be a marathon until you finally see those 2 pink lines. And so coming up with strategies and tools that work for you. So, if you, figure out some small changes nutrition wise and you're able to implement those and they make you feel better, like that's something good that you can turn to. Or if, you've decided you're going to continue to exercise, but you're going to pull it back a little, like a bit, so that you're falling within the guidelines. like, I remember feeling so proud of myself when I didn't go past the threshold on the treadmill, like, yes, like I did that. And like, that's one more day that, I'm doing something positive. And so it's kind of finding what works for you and supports you mentally. And that feeds into the stress piece. And it can incorporate these tips that we're talking about. And, from a mindfulness or mental well-being perspective, not the same thing doesn't work for everybody. And so what tactics work for you might not work for somebody else. And the same applies to actual mindfulness techniques as well. And so, experimenting and finding that balance. And, when you get your period and you feel so dismayed and that you've lost hope, sometimes it can take a couple days, but then you're like, okay, this is, a fresh cycle and a new opportunity. And I'm going to stick to those things that I know help me feel better. And I know based on the research that that's going to work without thinking like I have to do all of it. And then when your mind does start to spin out of control, being able to engage some of those tactics, like, okay, I know that, I'm doing what I can from a nutritional perspective and I'm keeping my exercise in line. And I know that when I meditate, that also helps. And then going back to those things that work to kind of rein in some of that, the spin that happens with your mind. I think, that's a big thing because we can't go full tilt for an entire year or 2 years or however long your journey is going to be. And you can't allow your mind to constantly be going into that anxious state because it's not good for anybody or yourself. And so really finding what works for you and the balance that helps you to be in the best state mentally and physically.
For sure. I love all of those tips. So very important. And so let's touch on partners. How should our partners be involved in all of this? Should they also be looking at their nutrition and lifestyle pieces kind of to help them? They're part of this equation too. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, my neighbor was asking about our business the other day, and he's like, yeah, infertility is on the rise because women are waiting too long to get pregnant. And I was like, and yes, like it can't be disputed that fertility declines with age, more so for females than males. But, infertility cases, 40% are female, 40% are male factor infertility and 20% are unknown. So, just as many male infertility cases there are as female. And so it does play a big role, and it's half the equation, sperm health. So yes, there are a number of things that, a male partner, if that's the type of relationship you're in, can be doing to support their reproductive health as well. From an exercise perspective, again, regular moderate exercise supports male fertility as well, but making sure that you're not overheating where the sperm is being produced. Mm-hmm. So keeping things light and airy and breathable. Sometimes men are advised to cut back on cycling because that can be really hard on your balls. It's hot. And there's a lot of pressure down there, and that can impact sperm health. So taking a look at, what your exercise habits are, and some of those, healthy tips from that perspective in terms of sperm health are important.
And body composition makes a big impact for male fertility as well. Like, we know when we get questions about, sperm health and male fertility, one of my first questions is like, what's the lifestyle look like? Because it helps me glean, is he carrying extra belly fat? Like, is his body composition elevated? Because we know that it makes a big difference. And so I think some people don't realize that, like, even a slight increase in body fat can reduce your sperm parameters. And so just simply looking at, body composition, is he carrying extra weight around his belly? Or the love handle area, like that's generally where men sort of carry their weight. Like, if there's even a little bit, not that it's wrong necessarily, but it can impact your health. And so, of course, like changing your diet and, like Lyndsey said, fitness and looking at, stress, these things all have been shown as well, like to improve male health. But the body composition has been shown in the literature to have some strong correlations as well. And, sorry, my phone just went off there. Okay. And so I think that, like, while, predominantly it's women that we're talking to and working with, male partners can also use these same programs because they are built on the same research, supporting, reduced inflammation, increase in antioxidants, improving hormonal health, and like all those things. And so, some women are like, oh, I don't know, I'm not sure about this. I'm not sure if like my husband's going to do it. I'm like, well, if you cook the meals for you, he can eat the same thing and it's going to benefit him just as much. So I think that that's an important tip for people that are listening, is that, a lot of the same, factors that are going to support a woman's fertility are also the same that are going to support a men's fertility.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, getting pregnant is a team sport. And so, from a toxin exposure, an exercise, a stress management, a nutrition perspective, you can both do it together and reap the benefits of it.
Yes. I love that. Amazing. So tell everybody where we can find you. Where can we learn more about you and myMindBodyBaby?
We are all over. So our website is myMindBodyBaby.com, and we have a ton of resources available there. On Instagram, we are at myMindBodyBaby. Through Facebook, we are at myMindBodyBaby page, as well as through Pinterest, myMindBodyBaby page. And we put out, a ton of tips and advice and research-based little snippets that are easy to incorporate, through Pinterest and through Facebook and through Instagram. And then our private Facebook group is called Fertility Support Find Hope. So, you don't have to be public in your fertility journey to be able to get some of our tools and support. Or if you are, then, we love seeing your journeys and following along with you guys as well.
I love that. And I did see too on your Instagram that you have an IVF checklist. So I thought that was really helpful. So definitely everybody listening, check that out.
Yes. Yeah. That is a nice little checklist to make sure that you're doing what you can leading up to an IVF cycle. And that's free to download. So you can grab that from us too.
Amazing. Well, I loved talking to both of you. Thank you for being here. As we close, I would love maybe a piece of advice you want to leave our audience with.
I think it's the planning piece. That's a big one because, all the research shows that time leading up to a cycle is important for setting the stage for what we all want to happen, the fertilization and implantation, whether it's through an unassisted or assisted cycle. And so, the earlier you can start, the better. And if it's the day before your transfer, knowing that even those changes that you make from here on out are going to be beneficial. So just, planning ahead as much as you can, and getting started with these changes and keeping them within the level of change that is not going to cause undue stress to you.
For sure.
Good advice, Lindsey.
And how about you, Michelle? Did you have anything to leave us with?
Oh my goodness. Like sort of in line with what Lindsey says is I love being your own advocate. I feel like for a lot of us, when I ask people about their journey so far and, any medical diagnosis or anything, people often say like, I don't have anything that I know of, or I ask about blood work and, what have you had done recently? Well, I have no idea, or yeah, I've had that done, but I don't know what it is. And so I think that, there's something to be said for understanding, to a certain degree, like you don't have to be a scientist, but to understand some general concepts about what your blood work means and what it says and what you can do about it. I think that's important to really be an active participant in your own journey, because just simply having these conversations with so many women a day, very few know what their blood work shows. And when they do, I think they can realize that there's steps that could be taken to support their fertility. For example, I get women all the time who say like, my blood work for X, Y, and Z factors came back, and in my head, I'm like, well, I think you have PCOS. Like, if you perhaps you should talk to your doctor about having these rechecked and talk to your doctor about what that means. Like, I can't provide a diagnosis, of course, but in my head, I'm like this, like if you would just, to ask a couple more questions, which I help them with, you may find out that the PCOS is part of your problem, and there's so much you can do about that. And so I think it's just playing as active as a role as you can in your journey, and really advocating for yourself, asking for the blood work. What does it mean? Booking those appointments. So you're not being pushy. I think probably doctors appreciate, you taking that active measure in your own journey. So that's probably what I would say.
For sure. I love that. And I completely agree. We're a big fan over here about advocate for yourself. Like your doctor works for you and you need to push and get those answers that you deserve and that you need. So I love that you said that. So amazing. So nice talking to you, ladies. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much
for having us.
It was a pleasure to speak with you.
Yes. And thank you, ladies, for listening to the Hormone Puzzle podcast. Until next week. Bye. Wait, before you go, don't forget about our VIP package. Want access to all the speaker interviews, watch at your leisure and in your own time from the comfort of your own home. Also, come back and reference any episode at any time as your needs change and as you move through your journey. For one low price, you get all the summit recordings, unlimited access, our swag bag filled with so many different freebies from all of our experts and sponsors, as well as discounts on all of our services, plus a copy of my book, The Hormone Puzzle Method, Solving Infertility. All this and more for one low price to help you finally solve your infertility puzzle so you can get pregnant and stay pregnant. But don't delay because this deal won't last long. Once the summit starts, it's gone forever. So to take advantage of this deal and lock in your savings, visit www.solving-infertility.com/purchase. Hey, hang on just 1 second before you go. I want to make sure that you are aware of all of the amazing free resources that I have for you on my website at CoachKayla.com. From a fertility meal plan, a cycle syncing quick start guide, a holistic healing cookbook, as well as master classes, blog posts by me and some amazing experts in the fields of fertility, hormones, and nutrition. So many wonderful resources that will help you on your journey. And I wish there had been something like this when I was going through my 2 years of infertility, but there just wasn't. And so that's why I decided to create all of this for you. So make sure that you go and check it out and you take advantage of this plethora of support that I have provided for you. And spoiler alert, these were some of the same tricks and the same foods that I used to get myself pregnant, not once, but twice, even after my doctors said that I couldn't. So I know that these things work. So make sure you take advantage of that. And I cannot wait for you to be my next success story. So thanks, love. See you soon. Thanks for tuning in today to the Hormone Puzzle Podcast. Check out the show notes for today's episode at CoachKayla.com. If you like what you hear, please subscribe and leave a review. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll see you next week.